way through the Maniac Cop 2, really, but never seen. It's Standard Cop 1. Oh, hey! Recently, I've been making these crinoline dresses. I'll usually add these puffy sleeves. I thought that would be a fun project for today because this puffy sleeve could be a rework that you do for like a strapless dress or a top. You could add that on there, or they could be freestanding shoulder accessories. So today I'm going to show you how to make a puffy sleeve. I bought this floral 90s dress a while back, really for the netting that was underneath it for another project. And at first I wasn't so hot on the fabric because it made me think of Easter Sunday from my childhood. But then I realized 2000s are back, baby. So let's do it. So I've got the corset here. I've detached from the skirt, and I was going to cut 2 puffy sleeves from the skirt. It's quite full. And I could either wear them, you know, as free floating shoulder accessories, or I could attach them to this corset. Just to show you that the skirt was like this, and so there's quite a bit of fabric because there are so many gathers, and this doesn't seem to have a lot of curvature to it or like darts and whatever, so I think I'll be able to lay this flat. I could take out a seam or cut it and really open it up, but I think I'll be able to just lay the pattern pieces right on there. Let me just talk about the pattern for a second. I drafted this, and I am not a master pattern maker or anything. So this is a puff sleeve pattern. I guess I'll go ahead and give you the measurements. Sorry, as I said that, I'm like, well, let me, it'd be easier because I've covered up the numbers. Okay, so I'll just tell you that what has been working for me, that's about 18.5 inches tall. And this is cut on the fold, so it'll be doubled. So we'll be cutting that on the fold. So 19 inches, that's about, basically about 19 by 19, but remember it's cut on the fold. So it's actually about 19 by like 38. And on the part that goes under your arm here, there's a little bit of that curve, and it's quite exaggerated because it's a puffy sleeve and there's a lot of room. So this is 10 inches. So let's just say 19 here, and what did 10 here, and then 38 all the way around. And then in theory, you'd cut 2 unless you want a single sleeve. That's fine. And if you're like, I'm not a pattern person, then you could, I've done this also as just a rectangle of fabric, no curve, and it worked totally fine. So if you're cutting a puffy sleeve from a garment like this, and there's some, you know, seams running across there, and if you don't feel like, you know, slicing and dicing and opening it up, there's so much fabric to this, and especially a print is usually pretty busy. So I think that seam will kind of blend in there. And even if it doesn't, it'll look like it's on purpose and it's fine. So this has one piece of fabric in the front. So I could try to really do the math and try to figure out how to cut it with the least amount of seams in there, but I'm not going to worry about it. So all that to say is, sorry, I'm giving a dissertation on like being chill. Okay, let me get the weights. Sorry, some things I'm like, is this important? And then I'm like, I'm creating a problem instead of just like, I didn't even have to address it. Okay. I don't like to use pins on fabric. It just takes forever. So I use fabric weights, and I'm cheap. And so I got these at a place in town called Scrap. And I think they're old trophy bases. Anyways, they're heavy. And so, you know, you use some canned soup or whatever, I don't know, something heavy. But I mean, you can also get fabric weights. I don't know why I feel dumb paying for something that's just heavy. Wow, I paid $20 for it to just be heavy. Like, you know, this doesn't seem right. Okay. And try to get it right up to the edge to save fabric. And now I'm going to cut. I'm using a rotary cutter, but you can also use scissors. So annoying. Oh, it's because it's on the center seam. I was like, why is it doing this? There we go. I will sharpen my blade next time. Not right now. We'll get through it. Okay. Also just realized there's a stain on this that I meant to cut around and it's fine. Okay. Don't want to get into that? No. No. So here it is laid out so you can see the full thing. So at this point, I'm going to, making sure to have the inside, or the outside inside, and then I'm going to serge the little side together so that goes under the arm. I'm going to serge it here. Then it's going to be in the round, and I'm going to serge just a clean finish all the way around the top, and then all the way around the bottom, and then we can talk about the elastic. Here it is, serged, ready to go. Now it is time to figure out the elastic. So we need elastic here at the shoulder and then at the bicep. So I never remember how much I need. You could get a tape measure. I'll probably just kind of eyeball it. So just leaving about 1/4 of an inch extra so you can sew it together. And some elastics are pretty soft and forgiving, so let's see. And of course I'm wearing a shirt too, so. But yeah, you want it to be like tight but not cutting off your circulation. And you can always tweak it at the end too, so seems about right. And so, don't have any scissors around. Just, there we go. And you can always recut it if you didn't get it quite right the first time. All right, so I need 2 of those for the shoulder and then for the bicep. And this is a 1/4 inch elastic, I believe. You could also, I've tried the bungee elastic and it's hard to attach together at the end when you need to sew it in the round. So if that's all I have, maybe go with that, but it was a little harder to work with. So it'll probably hit somewhere in the bicep, so yeah, about there. Leaving a little extra to overlap and cut 2. And I'll tell you what these ended up being, but obviously everyone's arms are different. So it looks like the shoulder was about 13.5 and the bicep was about 11. So, you know, if that's some sort of rubric, some sort of metric to go by, 13.5 and 11. But it'll be different for everyone. I'll start on the bicep. I use the tunnel method when I'm doing elastic for the most part. And what that means is usually I will have a safety pin on one end so I don't lose it. It's so easy for it to just slip through the tunnel. So I put a safety pin on each end. And let me get in here. And I'll just say I'll start from this point, it's under the arm, and I will fold it just once since I have it serged, and making sure there's enough room that you're not sewing onto the elastic, but basically starting from there, I've got the safety pin, one of the ends here, and I will I don't really need to pin it because I can do this like as I go along. And it's fine if it gets twisted right at first. I can undo that. So I just I'll just use the serging as a guide, kind of sew right down the middle of it. As I'm sewing, I'll just keep scrunching it. And I kind of have to manipulate it as I go. But I'm sewing a tunnel that the elastic can move freely through. Okay, this is Lars from the future doing a voiceover because as I'm sewing, I'm talking and the machine's too loud. But yeah, you can tell I'm talking because my hands are moving in the video like an idiot. So I just wanted to pop in to say that when you're doing the little, you're sewing and then you're lifting up the presser foot to scrunch it, that you need to make sure that the needle is down into the fabric. And so just something to keep in mind as you're going along. Make sure that needle's down. And I also wanted to just say there's another method if you don't want to mess with all the scrunching that you can just like leave out the elastic at this point and just sew the tunnel the same width and just sew it all the way around and then just leave about a 2-inch space to insert the elastic. Keep the safety pins on both ends and feed it through. You could also feed it through instead of safety pin with something called a bodkin, which sounds like it's from the Renaissance. It's like this little clippy thing. It's like $3. Anyway, safety pin works fine. I'm getting to the end or the beginning. And so I'm going to leave a few inches. So I'm going to sew up until about here, stop, and then we're going to work with the elastic and then finish it up. Now I make sure that the elastic is flat, that it's not a weird Mobius strip in there, all flipped around. Okay, then I undo the safety pins, holding on because they will slip through if you don't watch it. Okay, and then scrunching, just double checking. Okay, then I'm just going to overlap this about 1/4 of an inch or so. And I'm going to stitch this together, just kind of back tacking, and that way it'll be elastic in the round. I'd say give it at least 5 or 6 go-arounds. Then this will slip right in there. And now I'm going to sew the tunnel closed. Looking good. It is now a different day. If you're wondering about the background being different, you're not crazy, but I am wearing the same outfit. But anyway, let's move on. So I just finished up the elastic in the bicep and the shoulder of each of these sleeves. So I'm just going to pop them on and just kind of make sure, because sometimes the elastic will stretch out as you're, scrunching it. And so maybe before you sew it up, do those last few stitches, maybe if it is a little, you try it on. If it's a little loose, maybe go back in, pull out the elastic and kind of shorten that up and then sew it closed. But pretty good. So now I'm going to stitch it to this bodice. And so I'll just kind of make a mark, like pin it or with tailor's chalk where I'm going to sew it. I'm just going to sew probably about 1.5 inches of stitches. It's really not that much. You don't need to do a whole operation. So just mark where the side is and then pin make sure you get it in the right direction. It's the shoulder one and it's the center. So it'll be where the seam is. And then let me get some pins. All right. And sometimes you can just eyeball where the side seam is. This one kind of doesn't have one. And sometimes you'll want it to be maybe not even right on the side seam of the bodice. If there is one, maybe a little bit forward because your arms are going to be moving in this direction. They're not so much moving in this direction, but I mean, I don't know your life. Maybe they are. All right. So then here's the shoulder. And then here's the seam. And I think I see. I'm trying to think, what do? I tend to put it, you can put it inside, but I put it, the sleeve, on the outside of the bodice in this direction. And let's see, when I'm sewing, and then of course this is the point where I'm like, what would be easier to pin it, I guess in this direction. So I pin that in place, and when I sew, I'm just going to be sewing, kind of stretch that out. I try not to sew on the elastic. I'm trying to sew on this seam. It's fine if you sew on the elastic, but I don't know, why not? Just that way everything can kind of move and groove in there. So I will be sewing just about, like I said, about 1.5 inches, and then it's sewn in place, and then you've got yourself a top. So let me pin this, and then I'll sew. Here it is at a glance. So just so you can see, it's truly just sewing the sleeve right onto, just right over the top of this. Nothing fancy, maybe 2 inches max. Same here. Here it is. Interesting top. I'm not sure what you'd call this neckline. It's like a sweetheart neckline, but anyway, not sure where the boobs are supposed to go. But anyway, I'll work on the fit later, but I just wanted to show you the sleeves. I love how they turned out. And I don't know, I think this is cool because that way if you just have a little piece of fabric, you can make some puffy sleeves, add them to a top or a dress, and you instantly have, you know, a little drama. So I think this is one for the books. See ya. This dress is only a little bit peep. So I was like, does this, it's one of those like, I don't know if it's the most me thing, but I made it and sure.
Oh, your mic is
into my bosom. You know, right. This is so bouncy. Oh, because it's elastic. Sorry, I was like, what is this? Sorry, you can probably cut all that. Who cares? Yeah, I will, because it was nonsense. Yay! That was good. I got chills. I'm like, oh my god, I think I was like, don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up. I know, I was like, don't fuck it up.